This time it should work. Let me know if you get a notification.
Yeah, there's the notification.
Alright. Just let me know the first person that joins, and I'll open up the here. I should be able to see if somebody And we have our first victim, Jupe 5000. And just since you're the first, there you go, man. I had to break out the Kramer again tonight. I love this freaking guitar. Is this thing actually working mic-wise?
Yep.
Okay. Made some changes.
Ted
Miss-
Brooks is on.
Hey, Ted. Hey, since it's only two here, now both of you feel lucky. Made some changes. I wanted to get the microphone a little closer to me, and picked up this Shure arm, And I made a special trip to Washington Music Center. I don't know if you guys know what Washington Music Center is. It's Chuck Levin's. And Chuck Levin's has been around, shoot, probably since the 50s or 60s. And in my area, there used to be Veneman's Music and Chuck Levin's and Rolls. They were the three really big stores. Rolls went out of business first, then Chuck Levin's went out of business. I mean, not Chuck Levin's, Veneman's went out of business. And the only one really iconic store in my area left is Chuck Levin's. Some of those guys have been there for, 30 plus years. Well, probably that I know of, 30 plus years. There's a gray haired guy that works in the guitar department. That man has serviced and helped more people that are professionals than I can even imagine. They've been around a long time. So I went down there, I picked up this mic boom stand for the mic, get me a little closer to the mic, and that freed up my kick drum stand that I was using, and I put that over on my guitar cabinet instead of using the big boom mic. So it's a little better now with that microphone on it.
Honey Tap's on.
I see Mr. Honeytap. I saw a live thing from Honeytap this morning with him on a surfboard. I didn't click on it and watch it, but that's what the little screenshot, I guess the little YouTube picture was a surfboard. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, he's on a surfboard. Now, Honeytap, what you got to do, you got to get a Spark Mini battery powered on your hip with your guitar and surfing all at the same time. I want to see that video.
He said he surfed right after the live stream this morning.
Yeah, but did you take your guitar? Were you surfing and rocking all at the same time? I mean, we got a multitask here. I see Kurt Inscale made it to the group, and for Kurt and Honeytap, that way we don't leave anybody out. Anyway, guys, I was playing the Kramer again tonight. I did make a couple little changes to the amp. Everyone said it was a little bright, so I did make some changes on that. Man, I tell you, I went back last night. Maybe you guys can shed some light on this for me. Last night, I kept playing the guitar. I know I misfretted quite a bit last night, and to me, I just sounded off. Everything I did last night on the guitar really sounded off. So last night, right after the stream, I went back and I listened to it. And I did hear where I was misfretting a lot of bad passing tones. But it wasn't as bad as I initially thought while I was streaming and playing. The one obvious one was the one where I said, well, I landed a whole half step out and I played through it. Have you guys went somewhere and had to play out and for whatever reason you just felt like it was just off? Everything that you were doing just felt off and wrong. But yet, when you went back and listened to it or you spoke to somebody there, they didn't really pick up on you being off. Does that kind of make any sense? Because I went this morning, we left and went to Wheaton, Maryland, to Chuck Levin's. And again, after I fired up the stream, I was really self-conscious about how bad I played last night. And I'm sitting there listening to it, and the second time I listened to it, it didn't sound as bad as when I listened to it on the replay last night. So, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that feeling that you get. Yeah, Honeytap says that he's felt like that. Yeah, great. You're right. We are our own worst critic. I do get that. I mean, sometimes we know we're messing up and it flies right over everyone's head. But in this case, us here, we're all musicians, okay? So you're not playing to people at the bar that don't know the instrument. They don't know music. this live stream, we're all musicians. So we pick up, our ears are tuned, you know, to misfretting, notes that are out of key, you know. So when the community comes up to you and says, hey, or you're the rhythm guitar player, the lead player, the bass player, the singer, that's when I think that's a more critical evaluation of how you performed, if that makes sense. Yeah, Kurt Inscale says had that a few bad gigs over the years. And then Ted's like, in many areas of life, only the player knows what they are trying to do. The crowd doesn't. Yeah, I agree with that. Well, to a certain extent, I mean, if you're playing cover tunes, the crowd kind of knows where the song is supposed to go. And sometimes, I used to be real hypocritical on this. You would go listen to a band. Some bands would take a cover song, and you knew that band played cover songs their way. They would put their spin on it. And I'm not even necessarily talking about changing, maybe the key down a half step, for the vocalist. I'm talking about bands that really rearranged the song and would take soft rock songs and turn them into harder rock songs. When we would go watch bands like that, I expected the songs to be different. And I remember going to bars and it would be, a cover band, playing dance music and stuff like that. And I would listen to it and it would just sound off, if that makes sense. And I used to always think, like, are they doing that on purpose, or is it something, they learned it wrong? And again, I'm a musician, so maybe I was going into the bar and just expecting perfection. And that's kind of how I had the feeling last night. I was playing, and I just, some nights you just don't have it. And last night, I didn't have the feel, I didn't have the ear, I just didn't have the cadence. All these little, I could come up with 50,000 different words for how I was just kind of struggling. I guess that's the best way to put it. I was just struggling through it. And that's sad, because a lot of times when we're just goofing off, have you ever noticed that when you're just goofing off on the guitar, we invert back to doing pretty much the exact same thing over and over and over again. And we end up getting in a rut because we pick the guitar up and we instantly just go to this noodle thing that we've been doing for the last 6 months. And we noodle and we noodle and we noodle. But are we actually noodling and learning and getting better? Or are we just continuously repeating something we've already played? Are we pushing ourselves when we noodle around? And that's what I've been trying to do lately. I've been trying to pick up the guitar and push myself. Play stuff I don't normally play. Play cadences that confuse me, that throws me out of whack. And I want to keep trying it until I can get that cadence or that weird timing or whatever it may be. And I keep pushing myself and pushing myself. Sometimes you feel like you're just in a rut and you're not going anywhere, And I felt like that for a couple months. And then you'll get 2 or 3 weeks, it's like, oh my gosh, and you just feel like your playing level has went up a notch because now you've been able to, do a picking technique or a lead technique that you've been struggling for years to do, but all of a sudden, bam, you hit it tonight, and now it's just coming out effortlessly. So that's kind of how I've been feeling lately. I felt there for about 2 weeks that I was making some progress on my computer's going crazy. I was making some progress on my step over picking, where you pick up, pick down, then step over, back and forth like that. Alternate picking, some people call it. I felt like I was making a little progress on my alternate picking. And then the other day I was playing and I just kept the pick as I was going across to alternate pick. I kept hitting the prior string and it was like tit-tit-tit, 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 and I wasn't picking the pick up to come up. Like, instead of when you alternate pick, you always go down, or you go up, down, and then you're going to go down to the next note. Try doing it backwards. Try to pick up, okay, or go down then up, but then on your down pass skip over the next note and bring it back up. I do weird things like that just to get that strange cadence in my pick hand to do something different. I don't know if you guys, do weird things like that or not, but I have really been trying to think outside my little box and try to come up with different ways of playing the exact same thing. It may even be a 5-note pattern, but I may try to pick it differently, or alternate pick it, or straight pick it, or sweep pick it. If I can, find the notes on the net. Can I find a location where I can sweep pick it? And I've been doing that a lot.
I'm surfing aliens on.
Oh, time surfing Alan, we got something for you, buddy. Everybody's getting in. Linnell told me she's playing background sergeant again tonight, yelling in the room when someone joins. So, I don't know if y'all have got ways that you try to prevent yourself from sitting down and just noodling. And don't get me wrong, that's why we play. We want to sit down and noodle and have fun. But are there times where you sit down and you really wanted to practice, but then you just sat down and you started noodling through the night, and you get up and it's like, well, did I really practice anything? Did I work on this? Did I work on that? And I've been really trying to put myself in this box. I gotta practice this, I gotta practice this. Because the YouTube thing takes a lot of time. And when I was posting a lot of videos and doing a lot of reviews, I noticed my guitar playing kind of went down, because I found myself playing redundant things. That way YouTube wouldn't give me copyright strikes. There were certain things that I always played. So I found my playing ability kind of suffered. When I took that little bit of time off, I tried to go back and really concentrate on the guitar, push myself. And now that we're live streaming, twice a week, and I'm trying to do a video at least once a week, I'm trying to delegate my time when I am playing to actually practice. I try to goof off one night, and then the next night I'm going to try to practice and then goof off, then work on my OBS stuff and stuff for videos. Oh my gosh, Mr. Mike is on. Oh, you know what, honey? You got to type something in. I want to see two blue wrenches at the same time. Ha! Mr. Mike, the group, I have mentioned you probably in every stream, whether it's been modifying pedals, modifying amps, doing stuff like that. And I always tell the group, if you got some questions on modifying a Marshall or working on stuff like that, Mike is the man to ask. He rebuilt one of my PV tube sweeteners. And it was funny, he called me and he said, I don't really hear this thing doing that much. And I said, well, it's just supposed to warm it up. And it's an inline tube sweetener. And in the way that I use it, it actually makes a really big difference. And he went in and cleaned the pots up in it for me. There was a switch on the back. Mike can tell you more what he did. There was a decibel cut switch or something in the back that they were using only one side of the switch or something, he said. So he wired it to where the other side of the switch was working. Of course, I did finally get it hooked up, and I'm liking it. So the unit I pulled, now I need to get that one serviced, because that one's doing the exact same thing that the one I sent him is doing. It's crackling when you turn, which is 30 pots, but I guess it's the DB cut on the back is messed up. So I need that one to get serviced, and tweaked. And I really need my 6L6 power amp serviced. But I really, where Mike lives and where I live, it would cost a small fortune to send that 60-pound power amp to him. But guys, seriously, if you all have any questions tube-wise and stuff like that, Mike is the man to ask. He's very talented. So, what did everyone do this past week? We've got some of the same people in tonight, and some new people. Has anyone? We were talking about practicing before everyone come in. Does someone have a way of keeping focused when you're practicing? Because that's something, like I said, I'm sitting down and I'm finding myself just kind of noodling through the problem and not really devoting too much time to actually practicing.
Jackie's on.
I see Jackie made the group. Now we got Mike just joined and Mackie joined, Jackie joined. So we do have two more people. So that means I can push some buttons. We like buttons here.
Mike said, thanks for the kind words. Spent the day modding a Marshall Origin 20 to the head first plexi specs and fixed depth and FET boost.
Origin 20. Now, I've spoke to Mike several times on Skype, and he's given me, his opinion on certain amps and this and that. And I've seen the Origin 20 come up, and I'm actually looking for a Marshall type thing. And when I went looking, I just couldn't really, I'm playing rack stuff. So what I ended up doing is I got the Synergy SYN2, and of course I bought two Marshalls that aren't Marshalls. I bought the Friedman, I think it's a BE-DLX, and then I bought the Sedano, which is pretty much just a modified Marshall. And I listened to Mike when we was talking on how he changes the capacitors and the values here and there, and they modify these amps. And it's astounding to me because I don't really understand how some of that stuff works. And I know Marshall just released the modded JCM 800. So I don't know if Mike has seen the NAMM show that he saw that Marshall's now doing a JCM 800 as if you bought it and took it to your amp guy, does the modifications to it. I don't know, have you looked at that amp at all to see what Marshall did? Are those common modifications to what Marshall was doing to the new JCM 800? That's my question. I mean, I saw the YouTube video on it, and I'm not familiar enough to know what people did to the JCM 800s to know if Marshall was actually, just doing what the average person was already doing to the JCM 800, or how they went out of the box and done their own thing. That's my curiosity. You hear a lot of people say, Marshall's kind of going down because other companies now are doing better Marshalls than Marshall. So for me, it makes, this year them doing that, hopefully that's a sign that Marshall's gonna pull through. And as soon as they did that, of course, then we find out a Chinese company bought them. I don't know what to even think about the Chinese company buying them. Hopefully Marshall will stay Marshall. The Marshall family, I think I heard, still owns 20%. If someone knows better, please post the comment on. I think they still own 20%. I'm not too sure of that. So what's everyone's thought on the Marshall buyout? The more I think about it, I know, and again, I hate to keep bringing up Mike. When I bought my Egnator here. I'm going to switch camera angles, guys. Bear with. So if you look, well, I'm in the way. I don't even know where the mic, where that camera is. Look right there. That's my Egnator. And that amplifier was bought. That amplifier was bought on Mike's recommendation. And I can honestly say that amplifier, guys, I love it. The clean on that amplifier, that amplifier, it's a 2-channel amp. It's got a clean side and that's got the dirty side. And you can change the wattage output of the amplifier. It has presence. There's 6 little small knobs on the side that really bring the amp to life. And it only has reverb. But that was an amplifier Mike had told me about, and I went out looking for one, and one come up for sale in Pennsylvania. We were going up for a wedding, and it just so happened that it was only about a 30 minutes out of our way from the route we were taking to going up to our friend of ours' wedding. And I went in and I picked it up, and I like that amp. But I'm bringing it up because Mike told me to do certain years because when something in China, they started putting cheaper transformers in them, and it kind of destroyed the reputation of the company. So I'm kind of hoping that does not happen to Marshall. Right now, the Chinese firm has bought them, and I'm assuming they're still being built where they were being built. If they take product lines over to China, are they going to be substandard amps using, cheaper transformers and stuff like that? Egnator really destroyed their reputation when they started putting these cheaper transformers in their amps. This product, it's a heck of an amp. Maybe it was just poor marketing. I don't know why the Egnator didn't do better than it did, or why they felt that they had to lower their initial cost and keep their price point up high. Hopefully, talking about the price point, Marshall's went down. Did anyone notice in February, March, April of last year, the Marshall prices in the United States went way down? And then all of a sudden, everyone went out and bought a Marshall, and they went out of stock across the board, a lot of these amplifiers. But if you look at the new price point, it's went back up. And they claim the price went down because Marshall eliminated the middleman in the United States. Whoever their vendor or distributor was, they had redone that, and they wasn't marking up the product as much. I'm not too sure.
You have a Jerry White commenting Egnator was good.
I'm going to go back and read the comments here. Mike says, I get inspired to practice watching some of the Dave Brewster late night lessons, and of course, Shut Up and Play. I like to shut up and play. I've done that too. 12-foot chains tutorials. That one I'm not familiar with. Time Surfing Alien says Marshall retains 20%. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was 20%. And then Jerry White, Egnator was good. I can vouch for that. I think this one's a 2010 model. I think is what this one is. This one's a Renegade 2-channel, single 12, and I believe it's a 2010.
You gotta give Jerry White a hand clap. He gave everybody else one.
Oh, yep, I gotta give Jerry Oh, okay, hold on. It's done now. Here's Bryce's. So that's for Jerry White and Bryce. Everyone's gotten the clap tonight, so hopefully no one will feel out of place. Now we're still waiting on our resident PV expert that worked at PV. Jerry is yet to join the group. So when Jerry does join in, everyone pick at him and say, how does the PV cabinet builder guy feel tonight? Because that's what Jerry did. He built the carcasses for the cabinets, the 412 cabinets at PV. So, Mike, I haven't seen the new hot rodded JCM 800 Marshalls, but I saw a few YouTubers saying they were finally doing what Friedman's and other ones have been doing for years. Yeah, I think it's about time Marshall did that. I mean, you don't need to reinvent the wheel here. The amp has been made for years. They already know kind of what works. Why not just offer a turnkey product directly from Marshall? I think that'll work. I see some laughy faces from Linnell, so someone has done something.
Tom Serpent he said, giving everyone the clap. How accommodating.
Well, I plead the fifth on that one, guys. As far as Time Surfing Aliens comment, we're not even going there. But just in case you feel left out.
Oh, Lord.
So basically, it's factory settings on the AG08, guys. So I haven't went in and changed all the little clappy sounds and stuff like that. They're all factory sounds that come with it. Oh, here's Dean. So guess what? I promise I'll record a new sound so we have something new to tinker with next week. But for right now, y'all are just going to have to live with the sounds that I got 6 sounds.
Juke says, anyone's thoughts on Engel amps?
You know, Juke, there's an Engel. Now, I don't know if it is an amp. We're going to call it an amp. I have a problem with my rack. One, it's 30 years old. And sometimes I'll plug into the rack, and the volume is, you'll get a certain volume, right? And all of a sudden the volume will just cut. It'll drop. Okay? You would think maybe it's a potentiometer, right? And you go through and you try to change the potentiometers, and there's some that scratch and pop and stuff, but the volume never comes back. It's just not there. And I've been wanting to ask Mike about it. I don't know if the large capacitor caps could have anything to do with that or not, but there is definitely still a problem with my rack mount amplifier. Some nights I turn it on, it's just loud and mean, and then I'll catch it sometimes, it'll drop. And it'll stay like that. It might stay like that for a day or two, or maybe even a month. I just happened to do it the other day, and I had put new tubes in I have a BK Butler Pro Valve amplifier, and I put new tubes in it, and it seemed like it went away. And the reason I say all this is talking about Engel. Engel has a 6L6 rack mount power amp that I would really like to try out. And my furnace is cutting on, so I'm going to have to turn off the furnace because it's just going to be noisy as you know what. Hold on, guys. And I shut the furnace off, and I have an oil furnace, so it's going to have to run the blower a little bit to cool the stage down before it actually shuts off. Apologize for that.
Sounds like Manly is on a roll. He said modern problems, men with racks.
Men with racks, right. Well, I haven't gotten to that point in my life. I've been trying to stay kind of fit, if you can't tell. I still got the physique going on, guys. That's awful. But anyway, Engel has this rack mount power amp, and I've been thinking about trying to find a place where I could try one out. The drawback is, in my area, if I took my rack amp into a music store and said, look, I want to try one of your 2 power amps, most of them are going to be like, dude, you're not bringing all that stuff in here. It's a rack mount power amp. So do you go out and just buy it and then stick it in your rack and see if it's what you like? Your power amp actually does a lot for your sound. I like 6L6s. I think my sound is based around a 6L6 power amp. I know a lot of people like the EL84s. I think the EL34. But 6L6s, that's what I've played for years. So everything, how I perceive the EQ, how I set up my delays, how I do my preamp, how I push the preamp to the power amp to get that little extra clipping, all my prior knowledge is based on the 6L6. So I'd like to try an Engel. I know Synergy makes a rack mount power amp that I'd like to try. And there's one other company, was it Ferret? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's Ferret. I think they used to be VHT. I think VHT now is the China version. And I think Ferret or Ferret or whatever, however that's pronounced, they have a rack mount power amplifier too. I believe they have a Stereo 50 and a Stereo 120. If anyone knows which ones I'm talking about. So here, I'm going to have to do something with my rack mount unit. My first buy was my Synergy SYN2 with the Friedman and the Sedano module. So I technically have my new preamp, my rack mount preamp. And I have enough digital signal processors here. I have several Digitech Studio 200s. I have an Alesis Quadraverb. I've got an Alesis Multiverb 4. I got a ton of them. There's another one down there. I think that's a Digitech.
Jerry's on.
Oh, here's Jerry. Okay, hold on. There he is. Anyway, I'm thinking about, changing up the amp. And I have everything I need. I just need to get a different power amp and pull the ART out. And I'm hoping that my BBE and the rebuilt unit that Mike rebuilt for me, I can get a new amplifier that I can fit in with. I'm either going to do that, guys, or I'm going to say a bad word, and I don't know if it's too bad now. I may, and I've been beating this back and forth. I may go Axe Effects. I may. I'm looking at. Let's look at my rig here, guys. Let me change my camera angle one more time. Okay. So what we have here, that's my rig. At the very top of the rig, we have a Line 6 wireless guitar G90. Okay. Right below that, with the purple or blue light, that is my Synergy SYN2. The left unit is the Friedman, the right unit is the Sedano. Below that is the black and pink ART SGX 2000 Express. Below that is the unit Mike rebuilt for me. That is a PV AMR inline tube sweetener. Below that is my BBE 362 Sonic Maximizer. And then below that is my Pro Valve, BK Butler Pro Valve 46L6 power amp. Now let me switch cameras again. So that's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. It took me 30 years to buy all the stuff that you guys kind of see here in the racks, my keyboards and everything else. But the Axe Effects has all that in it. I mean, it's got the delays, it's got the reverb, it's got gate, it's got compression, it's got all kinds of modeling. It's pretty much everything in a I think it's a 2U rack.
Jerry White said the Sonic Maximizer is a must-have.
Yes, the Sonic Maximizer. If you guys have not put a Sonic Maximizer on your guitar yet, you're missing out. It was, I think, originally designed for vocals. And one of the guys that was our lead singer in one of my bands, he also did karaoke. He only did karaoke and live music. That's what he did for a living. And he had this BBE Sonic Maximizer in his karaoke rig that he would take out and do karaoke. And I was listening to the changes that thing made and the sonic enhancements. And he had an extra one. And he let me borrow one of his units. And I brought it home and plugged it into my guitar. And it just blew my mind how it... I can't even really put my finger on it. It's not just bass and treble. It's doing more than that. It's almost like a... I don't know, my Mackie has what they call a mid-sweep. It's a sweepable EQ. So imagine like a sweepable EQ that harmonically enhances certain frequency bands. And you have these 2 points that go like this, and you can change those 2 points across the guitar spectrum, back and forth. So it kind of enhances that aerial property of this frequency or that frequency. Some of the fancier ones, let's say this is your sweep, you can change the width of the sweep so it'll do this. Now, mine's fixed. So whatever that sweep is in arc plus decibel, it's fixed. You can't change. Mine's a 362. Some of the fancier ones, you have a width, a depth, and then they made a bunch of different versions of them. But if you haven't tried one, stick one on one of your guitars. You guys would be pleasantly surprised at how it's not just for distortion, even your clean, your reverbs, everything will just sparkle and shimmer. It gives it a shimmery sparkle. I can't say enough about it. That's probably the one piece of my rack mount equipment that if I take off the ART, the unit instantly goes down a notch as far as quality. The ART SGX 2000, a lot of people didn't like. It had some issues. One of the issues was the delay. I remember back in the day, you could go into a bar or a place playing, and I could go, that guy's playing an SGX 2000. And they're like, oh, there's no way. I'd go up, and there it was. I could hear the issue the reverb or the delay had. It's 16-bit. And it had an artificial artifact that it would reproduce in the delay. And it was called the art sound. All arts did it, whether it was an SGE, an SGX, an LT, an SGE Mach 1, Mach 2, the Nitro. They all had this art delay artifact. When you put the BBE on it, I'm not saying the artifact disappears, but it's shifting that frequency in the effects loop, and your effects loop in the ART, you can make it go post, pre, you can position where that effects loop goes in the chain. So if you come in on your preamp and you go right to the compressor, you can go out on the effects loop before it hits the delay or the reverb or the ambient floor percussion, whatever it may be. You can change that location. So the 362 really brings that unit to life. And it's not just that. I know guys would use them behind their Marshalls, and it really brings the Marshall amplifier to life too. I don't know if anyone else has any experience with them, but I'm liking them.
Jerry White, he's talking about the Sonic Maximizer. He says your signal sounds very dull without it. He's used one for 30 years, the pedal version.
Yeah, that is exactly Jerry's got it right. Jerry White's got it right. Yeah, your sound almost sounds dull when you take it off. Even though you may have a 3-band EQ, you got, or like in my SGX case, I have 6-band. It's low, mid-low, mid-high, high, and presence. Even with all that control, when you turn the BBE off, it just feels like it's just like somebody's unplugged something. The sound is dull. It's not as lifeful. It loses something. The best way, guys, is just you get on Reverb, get on eBay. Really, you can buy them dirt cheap now. A pedal, I've seen some pedal versions sell for $50, and some of the rack mount units I've seen $75, $80, and even the really nice ones, it's under $200. It's well worth a $200. Especially, I think it really shines with clean tones. Like, I unplugged it and I used it in my Egnator with just that in the Egnator effects loop with the reverb. It brings the bottom, like the Egnator, what I've noticed with my Egnator, when you get the bottom sounding full, it starts to sound dark and kind of muffly sounding. It's just not a warm bottom end when you start boosting it on the EQ on the Egnator. When you do the BBE and you do the bottom end, it brings that bottom end, makes it sound full, and I know it's bottom end, but it's like it brightens up the bottom end, makes it lively and more full and lively sounding. It really brings the Egnator's bottom end, which I think is a little lacking, up to like super nice level. And the Egnator reverb I like. So it goes through that, and it helps the reverb too. It gives the reverb more of a shimmery effect, if that makes sense. So it really works. If you've got an Egnator Renegade The 362 does wonders in the effects loop of the Renegade.
Juke says Leon Todd on YouTube does all the Axe FX 3 videos. Awesome sound and features. I want one, but price.
Yeah, Leon Todd, he's one of the guys that, that was Juke's comment. That's one of the guys, he writes a lot of stuff for Axe FX. I mean, he writes quite a bit of stuff for Axe FX. And there's a couple other gentlemen, what's it, G3 or G2? It's been a while since I've watched the channel because I kind of stopped looking at Axe FX just simply because of the price. I know you can get like an FM3 for like $800 or $900, and I think the FM9 is about $1,500. But I want a rack mount because that everything I use is rack, and that's putting you right at $3,000. And if you get the floor controller for it, that's pushing another $700 for the floor controller. So the Axe FX for me right now is pretty much out of my budget level. So I've been trying to update my rack a little bit. I'm hoping I can pull the ART out. I'm pretty sure it's the ART has just given up the ghost. And it looks like a computer. It looks like an IBM computer inside on one side, and then the tube side looks like it's a mess. I don't really think I'm going to find anyone that's going to work on it. When I called Applied Research Technology, they were like, "Don't send it here. We want nothing to do with it. We don't service it. There's no new updates for the last 20 years on that thing. We don't service it." So I gotta find someone that'll at least look at it.
Juke said yes. I want the rack unit with the controller.
Yeah, I don't know what the rack unit and the controller cost now, Juke. What was the last price you saw? I remember the rack unit being right at $3,000. I could be wrong.
Jerry White said the Alesis Quadriverb is a legendary ambient effect, unmatched in its sound quality. Buckethead uses on every show and almost every album.
I have, which one is mine? I have an Alesis Quadriverb. It's not the 2 and it's not the Ultra. They had 3 versions. Mine's an original Quadriverb. Then they made a Quadriverb 2, and then they made a Quadriverb Plus. I don't know if the Plus come out after the Quadriverb and before the 2 or how that worked, but mine's an original Quadriverb. The last time I plugged it in, it had an issue. It is my effects unit in my SWR bass amp. That's the effects unit that I always ran in the SWR. Just because of what you said, the ambient effects in the Alesis, it's next level.
Juke said it was around $3,000 without foot controller.
Yeah, Juke, Linnell's yelling in here telling me what you guys are typing. Because I'll sit here and talk and not pay attention. $3,000 for the Axe FX. Yeah, that's pricey. But the Alesis, now keep in mind, guys, we're talking about the Alesis Quadriverb. I guess this would have been 91, 92, maybe 90. When Alesis really hit the market, probably 89, 90. And you got to think, before that, all you had was TC Electronics. You had a couple other big, but these were $5,000 and $6,000 just for a delay unit or just for a reverb unit. When the Quadriverb hit the market, I think it was like $1,200. It did so much at such a cheap price point. It was a game changer for live sound. Your smaller live bands now could get sound reinforcement. You know, this was the time where sound reinforcement amplifiers and stuff were getting so much better. your smaller bands now were able to have decent live production and have processing on the back end. Before that, I mean, I'm not saying it didn't exist, but the quadriverb really changed the smaller local scene. We're not talking about 5,000-6,000 person venues. They had processing ability. We're talking sub 1,000 places that you played, places that would house 1,000 or less people. Front of house places and bands didn't have the money to go out and spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a delay, $4,000 or $5,000 on a reverb, and then have all that. The quadriverb opened all that up.
Jerry Dover said he'll talk to his amp builder he recently met and see if he does anything along the lines of your rack gear.
Who was this?
Jerry Dover.
So much gear, not enough royalty checks. Exactly.
You gotta go up.
Okay, it's Jerry Dover. Avery, I'll talk to an amp builder recently met and see if there's anything along those lines on the rack gear. Yeah, I mean, if you could do that, Jerry, I know it has an issue. I got to find somebody that is, I don't want to say talented. They need to be very talented to get in there and actually work on the unit and not be scared. Now, this would have been before the super micro components, because this was circa 1990, the ART SGX 2000. So I don't think there's going to be any of the super small capacitors and stuff in there, but it's still going to be a nightmare to work on.
Jerry White wants to know if you use a power conditioner.
You're going to laugh, Jerry White. No, I do not have a power conditioner. Well, I have a line filter, but I don't actually have a conditioner that keeps my line voltage perfect. I have a power conditioner that filters out noise, and that's pretty much all it does. I always wanted a really nice line voltage conditioner, something with a capacitor pack in it that would keep my voltage exactly 115 or 118 or 120. But no, I do not have one on any of my rigs. I have two different ones. What's the one I have here?
He wants to know if you got like 15 power supplies into one outlet.
No, basically I rewired my house. So the room that I'm in now, the plug behind my desk here, there's it's a 2-gang box, okay? That 2-gang box is on its own breaker. It's on its own 20 amp breaker, okay? The plug on this wall over here is on its own breaker. And then the plug where my rack unit is over here, where my guitar amp and stuff is, that plug is on its own breaker. All the other plugs in the living room are tied in to the first bedroom, I think. It shares. The other living room plugs are just piggybacked on one of the bedroom breakers. But yeah, it is divided for my equipment. And then downstairs, I'm actually building a room whenever I get it done. Every plug in the wall is actually separated and on its own breaker. Each plug is a 2-gang 4-outlet plug. There are pros and cons to that. Remember, you're still going back to your breaker panel. Everything is being, all your neutrals are still going to the same location. All your grounds are still going to the same location. So technically speaking, your ground connection, the way I have it wired, it still loops. It's still going to go from this one to the panel back to the other one. Your neutral is still connected because it's still going to the same bus. But downstairs, that room, every plug is on its own circuit. Because I'm sure I'm pulling quite a bit of current. I mean, well, you know, probably not pulling as much current as like a band would, because the only thing pulling a tremendous amount of current would be my power amplifier and my preamplifier on my guitar rig. Everything else here is probably pulling less than 15 or 20 amps total.
Read Jerry Dover's last comment.
Read Jerry Dover's last comment. Avery has a 50-watt Plexius.
He's talking about the amp guy.
Oh, that sings. I was looking for a combo until I met him. He builds some awesome heads. Very talented, knowledgeable. Yeah, that was the issue that I had. I don't know if Mike is still in the group or not. Mike, believe me, guys, if you need an amp worked on and you live near Mike will make your amp sing. He'll go through and tell you, he'll go through and check every single component in the amp, and he's going to give you a call. Look, this is testing out of range. This is testing out of range. Is it going to make that much difference? And then he'll kind of go, this is what really needs to be fixed. And he'll give you a priority list on how much that you want to get into the amplifier. And actually, that's what I think a true tech should do. The tech is doing you a service. If he comes to you and says, look, these components are definitely bad, but since I'm in there, you really should consider doing these things, And that one shows that the man has taken the time and actually looked at your product, and he's aware of the product. He's went through and checked everything. Now he's asking you, do you want me to do the bare minimum, 50%, or go all the way and restore it? And I know what people are going to say. Sometimes an old amplifier sounds like an old amplifier because some of the resistors are out of spec. If you're that concerned with it, a real good technician can get in there and he can measure the spec. And if it's out, he can replace that capacitor with a brand new capacitor at that value, and it'll hold that value for 15 or 20 years.
Jerry White wants to know if you ground shield your guitars.
Ground field. I only have one guitar. I'm assuming you're talking about ground fielding like I'm talking about. Hold on.
Shield.
If you ground shield, there's two ways of looking at it. I was supposed to do a video on ground shielding. Well, before we get into that, a good tech, he can measure the capacitor. Okay, it's an old amp. The values have changed. He can get you a new one that's going to measure out about that and put it in. When you put the new one in, it's going to hold that value for the next 20 years. You're not talking 30 or 40 years old that you're in there replacing it. So I get the concept of people saying, well, now it doesn't sound like an old amp. You've went in and you've rebiased the amp. You've replaced all the filter caps. You've done all this. But a true tech can get in there and he can look at these values. And is the amp going to sound like it did? No. It is going to change the amp. But a good technician can really watch what he's doing, and he can be mindful of the modifications he's doing. And if you tell him as much information on what you like, that just helps him when he's in there puttering with your amplifier. Now, back to shielding.
He wants to know if you shield your cavities.
Yeah, as far as shielding, there's two ways you can look at shielding. You got a guitar. It's only two wires going to that guitar. You've got a ground and you've got your signal cable. So when you shield that guitar, it still has to be grounded to something. I mean, I can build a Faraday cage around my house, but if I insulate that Faraday cage with rubber and I don't actually terminate it to dirt, you haven't done anything. It's just a big metal cage. Does that kind of make sense? So if you take your shielding in your guitar, okay, and you run your ground wire to it, now your shield in the guitar is only serving as just like the braided cable going out of the guitar that goes around the signal cable in the guitar. Here's a different way of approaching this whole thing. And I have one amplifier, my ART has a special jack on the back of it. and only have one guitar set up to do it this way, you need to find what's called double braided, double shielded cable. You still have the center wire, okay, center wire, and then you have an insulated jacket. Around that insulated jacket, you have a shielded braided cable. Around that shielded braided cable, you have an insulation jack. Then around that insulation jack, you have your second shielded braided cable, insulation jack, rubber. They have two shielded sections of cable going over your signal wire. What you want to do is that shielded wire gets terminated on one end or the other, not on both. It only gets grounded to one end, okay? So if you're wanting to add that extra, okay, you're going to come and bond that to the chassis ground of the unit. You'll have two grounds. You'll have a float ground and a neutral ground, okay? The ground of the chassis itself, not your neutral ground. Come off of that to the exterior shielded cable, okay? The shielded line of that cable. This is not the ground in the guitar. That's your center braided shielded cable and then your signal cable. The outer cable goes to ground, chassis ground on the component it's going to. When it gets to the guitar, you keep that shielded cable. You can use standard guitar cable, but now go out and get yourself some braided shielded tube, okay? Run that shielded tube around every wire in your guitar, okay, and bond the end of those to the shielding in your guitar, your cavity, and then bond the shielding of the cavity, your cavity shielding, to the outside braided section of the guitar. Now you're going to have to use a stereo guitar jack, okay, because you need tip, ring, sleeve. So your tip is your signal, ring is guitar ground, okay, that's your signal ground. And then your tip, ring, sleeve. Your sleeve is your component chassis ground to your shielding ground in the guitar. That's your copper shielding. This is also your passive shielding that you've run around all your electronics in your guitar. If you do that, you can play bars that have the awfulest fluorescent lights, and your signal will be as clean as it possibly can be, because you have two different ground planes going on. You've created a ground shield around your components, okay, and your wiring and the signal wire all the way to the unit. Once it gets to the unit, you've lost, okay? You've lost anything that really accounts for anything. So just bond it at that end to the chassis, okay? If you go to the next step and you're using double shielded cabling like that, the input of that component, okay, does not get terminated. If you build a cable and you want to build a cable, you use tip, ring, sleeve, okay? Tip is signal, ring is ground, sleeve becomes your third ground. You only bond that to the sending device, okay? You bond that to that terminal. On the other end of the cable, you clip it, cut it off smooth, put a piece of shrink tubing over it. You do not bond it. Leave that end open on the input of the next unit. Does that kind of make sense, guys? If you set up your whole system this way to tip, ring, sleeve, and the sending unit, that jack, the tip, ring, the sleeve, that terminal needs to be bonded to the chassis again, okay? But remember, you're not bonding that chassis to the next chassis because that cable is not terminated on the other end. Does that kind of make sense?
Mike says, what happens if the dive bar has their outlet's neutral wiring incorrect?
Well, then you're screwed.
Jerry said it creates a ground loop.
Yeah, it does. It creates a ground loop. You get all kinds of hum and noise. We used to carry the little testers, and it would come up with 2 yellow lights or 2 outside lights, whether it was a lifted ground or they have grounds tied to the neutral bus. There's just no way that you can get around that, guys. That's why sometimes some of these amps will have a ground lift switch. Sometimes that'll help. Some people actually have plugs made up, professional musicians, where it'll actually reverse the ground and the neutral in case it is backwards. We're not electricians. We're not going to go to the bar ahead of time and start plugging a bunch of stuff in. But professional guys that do sound reinforcement, they do look at stuff like that.
Jerry Dover said, Avery, that red PV is junk. I'll throw you $200 and then some smiley faces.
What was this?
Jerry Dover said that red PV is junk. He'll throw you $200 for it, and then he put some smiley faces.
The red PV. I'm trying to see where that comment is.
He's picking on you.
Well, I don't have a red PV.
What's sitting right there?
This is not a PV. Now you're going to hurt the guitar's feelings. Don't cry, Mr. Kramer. This is actually a Kramer, guys. There you go. This is my pride and joy Kramer. Now I know everyone knows I'm a PV guy, but a good guitar is a good guitar. So been talking quite a bit, and last night I played very, very badly. So let's see if I can play any better tonight. Tonight we are playing through the Friedman. And a lot of people say the Sedano sounds a little smoother sounding. I got it on the Friedman. So I'm going to turn off this microphone and just go directly to the guitar microphone. And then I'm actually, might switch camera angles, I don't know. Is that volume better?
humming when you chug, lots of low end flub. Somebody else said the cardiovascular in the mic is a flapping.
Yeah, it could be, guys. I'll lift this microphone
They
on.
want to know if it's a voice mic.
So I just turned back on the voice mic. Tell me if it does it again without the voice mic on. I'm going to turn this microphone off and just leave the microphone by the cabinet on.
Both Jerry's are placing bets.
Oh, I saw that.
Curtin Scale said gain is too high on cab mic. Ted Jupe says, Ted says much better. Jupe says no humming, but volume lower. Jerry White wants to know what delay you're running.
Okay, guys, I'm really struggling trying to get my amp captured with the SM57 beta. So I've been going back and forth. I listen to each stream and I'm trying to get what I hear in the room captured. So what I hear and what the mic perceives, and by the time it's compressed and by the time it gets to YouTube, it's completely different. So I've been making changes in the amp, trying to get the back end signal to sound better. So that's why I always, keep asking. Now, Jupe says the volume isn't as loud. Well, tonight I do have the amp set a little lower. And everyone said the Sedano side of the amp sounded better. So maybe I should switch back to the Sedano and see what that does. I do have quite a bit of gain, though, on the Friedman. I mean, I could turn the gain back on the Friedman. Let me do that. Maybe that will make a change. The Friedman is quite gainy. No matter what you do to it, the Friedman just has a ton of gain. So let me turn back on the guitar amp, and I'm going to turn off my microphone in front of me.
Jerry Dover said, have you backed the mic away from the amp to gather more of the room reverb?
Yeah, that's one of the issues, guys. I mean, like I said, I'm building. Jerry asked me how close the mic is. The mic from the cabinet is about 18 inches, and I do not have it facing towards one of the cones. Since I'm playing a stereo cabinet, I basically have the mic facing right to the piece of wood in between the four drivers. and it's about 18, 20 inches away from the four speaker cabinet, and that's probably 90% of it. The issue is the amp is firing into the side of my Odyssey rack mount equipment, and I just don't have the room to move the equipment down to get enough noise air separation, where the amp is setting. So I know that is causing a little bit of a problem, but it shouldn't sound muffled and fluffy. It shouldn't have that. It should sound decent, because it sounds decent in the room. And I probably do need to add a mic up above to pick up some room sounds. I was trying to get this microphone to do that, but it's so far away from the amp, I think that it just introducing more room noise than as far as adding tone to it.
Says I think it needs more cowbell.
Ha! I like the more cowbell comment.
Honey Top says my 2 cents way more complicated than it needs to be.
Exactly. Sometimes I think we can get it to be more complicated. That's another reason why earlier we were talking about the Axe effects. With the Axe effects, you can go in, you can change your cabinet, you can change the mic that you're doing, do all your cabinet simulation, and basically I could send that signal directly into my AG08 DAW. Done. It's one less open microphone. It's a lot less complicated. But I am trying to capture how my amp sounds. I will get it. Each time we do a live stream, I always ask. Hopefully it is getting a little better. The amp does, it's a tube amp and it's high gain. With as much gain as I'm running, the amp is actually quite quiet, considering I have a microphone 18 inches away from the cabinet. So if you think about a Marshall or any high gain amplifier, I think when I'm playing, I'm about 85 decibels, okay, in the room. This amp is extremely quiet as far as just floor noise compared to most amplifiers that I see out people playing. It is pretty quiet.
Honey Top says, dude, I run a $200 Spark Mini and it weighs like 2 pounds.
Yeah, the cabinet that just holds my rack mount equipment probably weighs 20 pounds just for the cabinet before you put any equipment in it. I want to say my amp probably weighs, just not joking on the kid, it probably weighs 8-9 pounds. My amp probably weighs, I'm going to guess 60-70 pounds. Just the amplifier. I guess the head, if you want to call it the head. I'm going to guess at least 70 pounds. I'm guessing 70 pounds. And of course, there's a 4-speaker full 4-selection cabinet. And that's another reason. I like the tube sound. And I think I've said it before. I like modelers. I have an HX Stomp that we used on the first couple live streams. I don't have an issue with modelers. I think they're great. I think that my perception and the feel that I get with it under my fingers is different. So I play differently. They have come a long way. I bought the first Line 6 pod rack mount unit. I don't know when that was. That would have been 2006, 2007 when that came out. I hated it. I wanted to replace my ART, and everyone in the band said it sounded fine. I just didn't like the way it felt on my fingers. And the rhythm guitar player in the band ended up buying it from me and using it in his rig. I thought it sounded fine. After hearing the band practice and going out playing it, I was kind of, well, maybe I should have kept it. But I just remember it just didn't feel right under my fingers. There was something about it I didn't like.
Honey Tap said the tube sound is a trap for your mind.
Yeah, there is. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I know there's something there. Okay, because I have both. I have modelers, I have tube amplifiers, I have solid state amplifiers. There's something to be said about a tube amplifier and the feeling under your fingers. I have never had a modeling amplifier give me 100% of what the tube amp does. If I take all my whole signal path and leave it exactly the same, and I insert a modeling head or a solid state head, it loses something under my fingers. I can't even put my finger on it. And this has been a common debate. I've seen people say you can't quantify it. If I do a capture and it's X signal at this point and this point and this point in the graph, as long as it's recording that capture accurately, that is that signal at that path at that particular moment in time. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying the feel that I get when I play, whether it's something the mind is picking up on, a perception, because you're not playing the amplifier. That your fingers are on this fingerboard, whether it's behind a tube amp or a solid state amp. I get that. But the perception of feel, time, sag, I guess you could call it, in a tube amp, all these things quantify the difference. And I just don't think modeling has gotten to the point where me as a musician, I can still tell the difference. The audience, I guarantee you the audience can't tell. But as far as me playing it, yes, I can tell the difference. And I'm quantifying that based on the lesser experience or expense of equipment that I have, like the Line 6 Helix stuff. I have not played an Axe Effects. Maybe when I play the Axe Effects, I'll jump the shark, as they say, and I'll be 100% into modeling. But right now, I haven't played a modeler that feels like my ART. And what's funny is, my ART is a hybrid, and it's from 1990. So it's a hybrid amp. It is solid state, okay, and it is tube. And it is mixing the solid state, and it is mixing the tube together in that signal path. Now, I am using that preamp, 2 preamps there, plus the Sedano or the Friedman preamp. So I'm actually running 3 preamps in my signal path. So that's something else I got to be very mindful of. If I'm clipping too much on this preamp, it can cause the next preamp, whether I go to the solid state preamp or the other tube preamp, or from the Sedano to the second stage tube, or do I go from the Sedano to the solid state back to the tube? Because I'm using one as a push. I'm pushing the amplifier. I'm not pushing the Friedman. A lot of people will go, oh, you should do your push on the Friedman. And that could be true. I haven't tried that. But what I'm doing, I'm going into the Friedman using the Friedman's EQ, okay, and getting most of my gain there. Okay, that signal input into the art is not clipping. It's just barely going into the yellow. I take that input into the solid state section, okay, of the amp distortion. I do my clipping there. I boost that and I clip the next tube, the 12AX7 stage of the SGX, to get the grit. Then that goes out. Now in the effects loop, it goes back into two more 12AX7s in the AMR tube sweetener. But I'm only using that for warmth. I can get a little bit more spice and warmth. It's just color. I guess everyone says warmth. I'm going to say it's coloring the signal more. Gives it more of that tube color. Because I am using that solid state preamp stage in there, and it gets that artificial sound. So I get rid of some of that going back into that inline tube sweetener. And that also takes some of the digital edge off of my 16-bit effects, because I'm using 16-bit effects. Well, I'm not running 20-bit, 24-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. This is 16-bit effects. I think Linnell said someone asked what delay I was using.
Yeah.
The delay I'm using is the delay in the applied research technology. My compressor, my limiter, my expander, my gate, my aerial exciter, my balance control, and my voicing control is all done in the applied research technology, if that makes sense. My sonic maximizer is BBE, and I'm getting color and tube warmth from the PV-AMR inline tube sweetener. My first gain stage, of course, is either the Friedman or the Sedano, and my secondary gauge stages are done by the Applied Research Technology unit. Then on my power amp stage, that's BK Butler. So I'm not using any other effects. That's the whole gear there. I'm not running any of my studios or my Quadraverb or my Mediverb or anything else that I own in the guitar rig. That is everything.
Juke says the XFX is awesome, but it's a learning curve with menu diving.
I think Juke was talking about the learning curve on the XFX.
With the menu diving.
You got to remember, when I'm used to programming, okay, it'll say DDL, and then it gives you a percentage, okay, and then a level, okay, and there's no touch thing, or it's just DDL. It's digital delay level, Then you got to go over and hit edit, program value, and then you turn the encoder knob once, and it'll go headroom. 41, 44, because you can't go 43. Okay, part of the problem was processing back then. You didn't have the processing power, so they put caps or limits on what you could do. So if you went on your percentage, it will go 40, 42, 44, 46, 48. Some are even worse. Like the aerial exciter in the applied research technology stuff jumps in 7% increments. So it's 7%, 14%, 21%. It jumps. You can't get in between. If you want something in between, you're screwed. The only way you can fix it is you're going to bump everything up too high, okay? And then you have a wet-dry mix. So you could run your wet-dry mix back. But you would have to figure out the percentage decrease that you want over to go down, and then all your other effects would have to be that percentage increased, and then take it out of your wet-dry mix, if that makes sense.
Mike wants to know, what do you play more when just playing for enjoyment, the rack system or the Egnator?
I play the rack system, Mike, most of the time, because I play just hair music. Now, when I play my Fender FMT or I play my Epiphone Dot, they get plugged into the Egnator. I guess I'm shallow, but I'm telling you right now, my little Fender FMT, which is basically a Fender Les Paul, is basically what it is. That thing sounds amazing through the Egnator. My Epiphone Dot sounds amazing through the Egnator. And believe it or not, my little Squire Nashville Telly sounds really good through the Egnator. I don't really plug any of my Super Strats in. I remember when I told you when I was looking for a completely different sound. And that Egnator gives it to me on that clean. You know, you can get a little dirt out of that clean channel. You know, if you really crank it up, you can get some dirt out of the clean side. So I really concentrate more on the clean side of the Egnator. Use the reverb, use the BBE, plug my Fender in. That's what I do. But if I'm trying to get my hair metal and stuff for demos, I'm usually using my rack. That gets, I'm going to say 95% of the playtime in this house is through my rack. Now, when I had you can't see it, it's off camera, going right there is my Black Star, which is dead now. It's an HT20. When I had that, I had some floor pedals on the floor, and I would putter around with that quite a bit. I had a boost pedal going into it and a little digital delay pedal, and I would plug into that. I plugged into that quite often, about 50-50 rack versus the Black Star. But it's no longer with us. It died. So that's just me. That's why I was thinking about maybe getting the Axe effects, because I'm doing more live stuff now and doing demos. I still think people would say, look, you're demoing a $300 guitar and you're playing it through, you know, something most people buying a $300 guitar are not going to have to play it through. And that's why I always tell people, if I have $3,000 and I'm going to buy a guitar and I'm going to buy an amp, I'm going to buy a cheaper guitar. I'm going to buy that cheaper guitar, and I'm going to put most of my money in my amplifier, because I still stand by the statement. Your amplifier, you get so much of your sound and your tone out of your amplifier. Your guitar, yes, it does make a difference. I'm not saying it doesn't. But I can go play a gig with a very cheap guitar and a nice amplifier, and I can get through the night. But if you give me a very expensive guitar and a very cheap, poor, amplifier, I'm going to struggle. Yeah, it's going to struggle. I don't know what your all's thoughts on that are, but I think it's better to put your money into an amplifier, processing, whatever it is on your back end. Your amplifier is where you should be putting your money.
Mike says he's with Honey Tap. He uses his Spark Mini 90% of the time at home. Occasionally, when his wife is out and he wants to pretend he's back on stage, out comes the Marshall.
Yeah, see, guys, I don't have an amplifier like that. I had an amplifier like that, and I sold it. I wish I wouldn't. I had a little Katana 50, and believe it or not, when I had the Katana 50, you guys are right. I usually plugged into that because it was one power switch. I would just plug into it. But it served its purpose and it moved on. But you can ask Leno. I've thought about getting another little Katana 50, a new Gen 3, just for that reason. It's super lightweight. I can just plug into it, and it's great. But I want to say, the Katana never gave me the feeling that my rack mount amp did. And I didn't expect it to. It's a $250 amplifier. But just the ease of being able to throw it in the truck and throw my guitar in the truck, one guitar cable and go, that was great. I don't have an amplifier like that right now. The only two amps that I have that are working are my Egnator and my rack mount unit. That's all I have. And believe it or not, that Egnator is quite heavy. That's a quite heavy amplifier.
Juke says I have a Katana MK2 100. It's a beast.
Yeah, I looked at the 100. My rack mount amp is twin. It's a stereo 250. It's stereo 50 watts. So both sides of the amplifier are 50 watts. And I can only turn this amplifier up to, I'm going to say a little past a third. Anything past a third, I'm already at 107 decibels in this room, and that is really, really, really loud. And that's about as loud as I will play, and I don't even play at that volume very long, because even though I'm in the house and it's during the day, I'm sure I'm going to really upset my neighbors playing that loud. So I really don't have the place here to really crank up a 100-watt amplifier. I think the little Katana 50 would be perfect for me. But you guys are right. That's why I bought the Line 6 Stomp. I bought the Line 6 Stomp and I bought these guys. Little pair of Tascam. And I was going back and forth to Ohio programming CNC machines for a stair company. And I would just take my Line 6 little Stomp and my headphones and my little traveling guitar. And I would sit in the hotel room at night with my headphones on, plugged into the Line 6, and I'm just jamming away. I loved it. Basically, everything fit right in the case of the guitar. I just shoved the little Line 6 in there, shoved the headphones in there, and grabbed the little bag, and I went. I loved it.
Mike says, is it even possible to get your room sound with your rack represented on a live stream?
That's what I'm working on, Mike. I'm trying to get that sound represented. I go back and listen to the streams, and believe it or not, the closest I think I came to getting what I hear, okay, when I'm just in here puttering without me changing the amplifier, was I think 2 streams ago. And when I played that night, the amp felt kind of dead and lifeless, if that makes sense. When I was playing it, it felt that way. But going back and listening to it, it sounded more like my amplifier. I know that's really the only way I can explain it. That's why I don't ever argue with people when they say, I have this amplifier, I like it, it does this, and I had a tube amp. I'll never go back to tube amps. This is doing it. This is the bee's knees. I don't ever say, man, you're wrong. You haven't played through a good tube amp. That's why when people come up to me and say, Avery, you get rid of your rack stuff. Just get yourself a really nice Axe Effects, whether it's an MF9 or a Quad Cortex or a Helix, the real Helix, not the little Line 6 Stomp. Get a rack mount Helix. Give it 6 months, you'll never go back to your tube rack. I'm not going to argue with that. I can see that happening. I can. I'm waiting for the next generation of Helix to come. I think if Line 6 can push the envelope like they did with the Helix when it first came out, the Helix when it first came out, it didn't have the groups behind it, the people writing to it. It took a couple years for people to figure it out, but once that base of people bought the unit, started figuring out how to make it do this and do that and patch and updates, it really came a long way. Same with Quad Cortex. The new Tone X stuff is doing it. So I think the time will come. I'm just kind of waiting. I would already probably have an Axe Effects if it wasn't $3,000. And the only reason I don't have an FM3 is it's limited on how many effects that you can put in sequence, and the processor itself isn't capable of doing complicated effects. And before anyone says anything, they're going to say, Avery, you just played through a 16-bit digital delay, digital reverb. So even the FM3 on its worst setting possible, is still going to be far superior on the sampling rates and everything that my ART is doing. I get that. Believe me, I get it. And for $1,000, I should probably just get me an FM3 just like I did the little line 6 stomp over here. Putter with it, see if I like the writing, because the FM3, the FM9, and the rack mount unit use basically the same on-screen software. See if I like getting around in the software, and then, basically get my feet wet, and then move to the more expensive unit. I should probably do that.
Juke said, don't get rid of your rack stuff. It's relic, nostalgia. You may never get it back.
Oh well, yeah, I wouldn't get rid of my rack gear. Just doing the reviews. If you guys go back and look at some of our reviews, there's always a comment. Someone will say, "Man, your rack system is just intoxicating," or "Oh my gosh, that is the 80s 90s tone." Well, it's the 80s and 90s tone because it's 80s and 90s equipment. I mean, we can model that and we can try to replicate that, but it is a model. It is a replication of what once was. I don't need to replicate it. I don't need to model it. I have the equipment that made that sound in that era. That's how come I can get that sound. I've only tried a couple times to really get the new grunge sound out of it. And I think during my stage right review on the V30 cabinet, I really cranked some settings up in the ART and tried to really get that 90s processor to do a rectifier sound. I don't think I got there, but I did get a sound that I go back and listen to it. It is more modern sounding. And I'm at fault. The Friedman unit that I have will get that modern sound. But what you guys heard sounds 80s. Now why is that? It's my ears. When I'm tuning the EQ and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I'm tuning to what I like, what I'm used to hearing. My ears are used to this EQ or this amount of gain stage or this amount of clipping or this repeat level or milliseconds on the delay. And a lot of those things equate to late 80s, early 90s sound. So I could put a dual rectifier amp in front of me, and I guarantee you I would get more of a 90s rectifier sound out of it than a modern rectifier sound of it, just because that's how I interpret and how I hear things, if that makes sense.
Honey Tap says, I think it all depends on what you're using it for. If you're playing in bars, etc., I see the tube amp thing. I used to have a Laney 100 tube head.
I'll be honest, Honey Tap, I see the tube amp at home. And this is coming from someone that loves tube amplifiers. If I ever got in a band again, I would not be dragging my tube amplifier. There's no way. There's no way I would take that tube amplifier. I would take one of my guitars. I would take my Line 6 HX Stomp. That's it. Yeah, I might go out and buy me a powered monitor to put in front of me on the stage, and I would go out of the monitor out of the Line 6 Stomp right into that, and I would send the direct signal to front of house. Done.
Jerry White says they have so much cool stuff in micro pedals
Yep.
now, it's amazing.
Yeah, the micro pedals, stuff like that. But I'm telling you guys, if I was playing in bars today, there would be no amplifier. I would have no amplifier. I literally, what I just said, I'd go the guitar right to my Line 6 because it's got a tuner and everything built in it. It's got my mic simulation, cab simulation, amp simulation. I'm going to get 3 or 4 sounds, a clean sound, a rockabilly sound, a 80s sound, and maybe a modern rectifier sound. Play anything just with those 4 sounds. You don't have to be perfect if you're playing Journey or this or that. You can get just a dirt sound to play all your dirt stuff or your high gain stuff or your clean. You can round it off. Run out of you could actually come out of your headphone jack would be actually best. Out of your headphone jack to a floor monitor directly in front of you, just so you can hear what you're doing, and then go direct out to front of house. And if you're playing a place that doesn't have front of house and you're playing a large enough, but you're going to have a board anyway. So you don't need your amplifier. You got your monitor in front of you. That's what your amp's doing. So you just go directly to the band's board to your drivers out to where people are hearing it. You don't in today's world you don't need an amplifier. Even me being as picky as I am, just talking about how warm certain sounds are, playing in a bar, I don't really need that warm sound. I'm there to do a job and make money and entertain. And no one there is going to pick up the difference between my rack mount amp and the Line 6 Stomp. And if someone does, they're going to be a musician. We said that earlier. Yeah, Honey Tap just said I would bring my Spark Mini. You know, I don't know if the Spark Mini has a direct out that you could go to the board. I don't know. You're playing in the bars that I would play around here. Most of them are going to be 200 to 300 people. Okay, so I don't know if the Spark Mini is going to have enough power, even if you put it up at ear level, to act as your monitor or not. It may do that, but you're going to at least need enough power as a monitor. And you've already got your cab sim and everything in the Line 6. So hear me out. I would just go out and buy a PA speaker. They make powered PA speakers. I just get one. I know QSC makes one for like $250. You know, a wedge. It's actually an array driver, but it's already wedged. Just set that thing down in front of you. You know, it's powered. Come out of the headphone, right into that. Set that thing at a neutral level. Adjust the volume on the QSC that's in front of you. There's your amplifier. And you can carry it in. You got your guitar case in this hand, okay, with your Line 6 Stomp. And in this hand, you've got your little QSC array driver. You know, it's a 12-inch driver and a horn.
Honey Tap said it sure does. Right out of the 3.5 jack to the board.
Yeah. Yeah. My question, though, Honey Tap, does it have enough power on stage to where you can hear it? Could you hear that over the drummer of the band? Yeah, because that's really the only person. Now, you're playing small places. The drummer most likely has his drums muted and dampened, and he's using triggers. Our drummer used to do that. He would run towels halfway across the head to deaden the head, and then he had a trigger in the head. So all you basically heard was the trigger. The drums were so dampened, even nights that we used microphones on the drums, it was more just for the attack of the stick on the drum, more so than the drum sound. Because he was using a Roland rack mount drum module on his triggers to trigger the drum sound playing. We just found that worked better. When you're playing smaller places, 300 people and under, you've got a full acoustic set and you've got a small stage and the acoustics are bad in the bar. It was just better to trigger the drums. It just worked better.
Ted Talks Guitars has to go.
Okay, Mr. Ted. Linnell's yelling into the room. I don't know if you guys can hear her in the background yelling in here. I greatly appreciate Ted coming in, man. And especially Ted made it through my rambling the whole night without going, I'm turning to drinking after listening to this guy for an hour and a half. Ha! Good seeing you, Ted. I'm going to catch you on your next live stream. And again, Ted, post in the live stream when you're live, what night you're doing. I think you said Tuesday night. But go ahead and put another post in there for your live stream on what night you're doing it. I think he said last night he does it on Tuesdays. But it's very entertaining. Ted's very honest, open, nice man. He's got a good show, guys. But I don't know how you guys feel about it. That's why I'm kind of... We were at Chuck Levin's today, Washington Music Center. And I was talking to Linnell about, you know, how things have changed.
Jerry White says the Spark has a powered monitor now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think the Spark Mini, I think there would be other amplifiers like that would be better suited for the small bar going front of house. Um, I think the Katana would be one. I think the Katana has a direct out. Um, but at that rate, we're trying to eliminate the amplifier. Okay, so by going floor stomp, whether it's the Helix or the Quad Cortex or an FM9 or FM3, I think that's something. Look for Tonex to be coming out with something like a Quad Cortex Line 6 HX Stomp. They have everything. They have all the little components they need. They just haven't put it in a package yet. A Tonex pedal that has all the captures and modeling, along with the delays and the reverbs and those effects. I think we can guarantee that that's coming. Excuse me for a second, guys. Hon, do we have another drink for me?
I think so. Jupe says Kemper does amp capture.
Guys, I've never. Now, this is coming from someone that has never played through a Kemper. The Kemper's been out a long time. I remember when the Kemper first come out and people were like, oh, it's junk. It's not the real thing. It's not a tube amp. It's not this. It's not that. If the Kemper was that bad, how come it's like 15 years? Something like that. How come they haven't done a complete redesign? The Kemper that we have today is pretty much the exact same thing it was when it first came out. Can you say that company just nailed it? I don't know how much time they spent researching and developing that product before they released it, but they released a product that has standed the test of time. I can't say that about my ART SGX 2000. It had about a 4-year reign where it was, if you were a working band making, let's say, $3,000 to $5,000 a night, those bands bought ART SGX 2000s. They couldn't go out and buy a VHT power amp and an ADA preamp and an Eventide rack mount processor they couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. You wasn't making that kind of money to have a system like that. So they went out and bought an SGX 2000. But the fall of that unit was the Purple Monster. And I'm going to just call it the Purple Monster. And I'm going to see if someone in the chat can type in what you think the Purple Monster was. It come out in about, I'm going to say 93, 94, around in that ballpark. So someone type in if they know what the Purple Monster was.
Curtis Gale said Helix and an in-ear is all you need for live, easy pack, in-out, any modeler.
Yeah, now the Helix, that's another one. I don't know how much difference there is. The HX Stomp, I'm sure there's Helix architecture in that. Line 6 they're not stupid. They're not going to completely reinvent the wheel. They have an architecture in their components on how things work. They're going to take that architecture and they're going to apply it to their catalyst amps. They're going to apply it to their modelers, to their floor pedals. So I don't know how much of that Helix technology went over into the Stomp pedals, the HX Stomp, and I think they made a larger version of the Stomp that had extra foot controllers. They're good at that. I have no issues whatsoever with once I got my head around how to make changes in the HX Stomp, I was good. And I'm going to be honest with you, the first month I had it, I was kind of like, oh, this thing is awful. this thing sounds awful. And I would listen to him like, it sounds fake. And then I started realizing that I was using it as a floor pedal going into my rig. And I still had my mic simulation on, cabinet simulation, so I was running an amp sim out into another amplifier. So once I started figuring out, well, I got to turn all this stuff off if I'm going to use it this way. But why do I want to use it that way? I've got a PA system right here. I got a Mackie 16L VLZ16. I'm just going to turn on the mics and the cab captures and all that, and I'm going to go out of the output right into the Mackie, into a full range power amp, into my control room monitors. And when I started doing that, I started seeing the value the HX Stomp had. And I think I did a couple guitar reviews with it. And going back and listening to them, the guitar sounds fine. It comes down to, you just got to kind of learn it. That's why I was thinking about going to the FM3, just get my feet wet in the architecture, see if I like the architecture before I spend $3,000 on a rack mount unit.
Honey Tuck said, I gotta admit, I would not play with an acoustic drummer again. They are way too loud. I would have the drums on a backing track. Just the idea of lugging all those drums around, not for me.
Well, there was a guy, I haven't done open mic. Oh, it's probably been 8 years since I did open mic. There was a guy that used to go around. He had this drum set, and it all fit in his little 18-inch kick drum. Everything. His one tom, his floor tom, his kick drum, his snare. It would all set inside of itself. Okay, and it was like a square box. His whole drum set come out of this little square box that he carried in. It had one cymbal, a ride, and a hi-hat. And this dude could play. But he also had a trigger system for it. If he would go in and play little tiny places, he put these little rubber pads on it and put these trigger things. The pads became triggers. I don't know what they were. It had a wire going into it, and it just sat on top of it. It muted and acted as the trigger. And it was the coolest little setup. And that dude could play that little set. You'd swear that guy was playing like a 10-piece drum set back there. He was so talented. But triggers, even back when I was playing, which was a long time ago, triggers opened up a whole market for the smaller bands. Being able to play a venue and to have control of that volume over your drummer. Okay? If you had a nice drummer that worked with the band, you could play around with it. It may not be the first set of heads, but eventually you can put marks on the drums, and you know exactly how much material to leave across the shell of the drum when you put the insert in it. They also used to make these things called dead ringers. You can install dead ringers and then also mute the backside with the trigger. You could really get the decibels down on the drums to where playing, a 200-person venue, you still got a little stage volume off of it, so everyone on stage could hear the drums, but you had that direct triggered signal going out to the guy. Back then, there was no front of house. Bars, they weren't investing that money. If it was 200 or 300 people and under, they weren't investing money in front of house systems. So you were bringing your PA. So whoever was running your PA, the drummer would go into his unit that he was using to trigger to a little 8-channel board, and then that would go right out to the main board. Our board, I think we only had a 32-channel board, so you couldn't delegate out all the drums, the bass, stereo guitar, back vocals, main vocals, and then you always lost your aux sends because you were sending those, to run floor monitors. I think we had one aux sends, one insert, so we were really limited. So the drummer always had his own little board to do his mix before it went out to the sound guy. but it opened up a whole new world. You're right, Honey Tab. You don't even you see it. I watch a lot of these church programs, and you see the drummer. He's behind this. It looks like he's in a plexiglass fish tank, and there's the drummer in this plexiglass fish tank because he's so loud. I don't understand in today's world why they're not muting out the drums and using triggers. Why is that guy behind all that plexiglass? I don't get it.
Juke says global settings in the Helix let you customize.
Yeah, we looked at the Helix. It wasn't last summer we went to Sweetwater, was it, on?
No, it was, I think, summer before.
It was the summer before last. We went up for, we were up there during Gear Fest. We got lucky that just so happened they were having Gear Fest the weekend we were up there. I got to meet Phil McKnight, got a picture of him. Honey, where's that picture? Because I look goofy as hell. I'll show you all this picture if she can find it. I was watching Phil McKnight, and this was, I think, yeah, it was right when I started the channel. And the dude at Spectre Studios, the guy that's always yelling and talking about tone wood doesn't matter and your pickups don't matter and your amp sucks, he's always yelling that. He was there, got to talk to him, that Baker fella. I mean, all of them. Once I saw Phil and he told me what was going on, I looked across the auditorium where everyone was eating, and every YouTube channel you could think of with, let's say, 50 to 60,000 subs and above, they were there. And it was fortunate enough I got to go up that weekend. But they had a Helix rack mount unit. And I want to say it was on sale at the time for like $14.99. And I spent that kind of money that weekend. I got a Schecter Sun Valley Super Shredder, a case. I think that's the same weekend I bought the HX Stomp. I spent that kind of money up there that weekend. I spent $2,000 at Sweetwater. But I didn't get the Helix rack mount unit. I seriously thought about it because that's right at the time I was experienced the first part of my problem with the amplifier.
Don't touch the screen.
She says I'm
Keep
not
it
allowed to
sideways.
touch the screen. But here's the picture of Philip McKnight and myself at Sweetwater. You can see he's got his little stage pass on. Sorry about the shaky hands, guys. That's the only picture I got. I should have got pictures of some of the other guys. But, we talk about like this. I'm a small YouTube channel. But I'll say this about Phil. If it wasn't for Phil's wife, we would have sat there and talked for 30 minutes. Because she eventually just walked off and said, Phil, you have stuff that you need to do. And she just marched off. And Phil looked at me and goes, I really need to get back to work now. So down to earth, these guys. I really can't say it enough. Most of them, they're just like us, guys. They just have more subscribers. That's all. They were able to reach their audience a certain way. And some people will say, well, during COVID, everyone was home and everyone was looking for something to do. So a lot of these channels exploded during COVID. And that could be true. That could be true. I think we all have certain people that like, certain things. And until that person stumbles across your channel, you're in search of. People go, I want subscribers, I want subscribers, I want subscribers. No, what you want is you want people that are like-minded, like you, that are going to like the same things, that want to experiment, like Honey Tap. This man, Honey Tap, writes music. He just pulls stuff out of his head. He composes it, does it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his channel, but he does a lot of composing and stuff like that. It's just natural to him.
Mike's back. He had to step out, but he's back.
Yeah, it's natural. Hey, Mike. It's natural to honey tap. He's just got a natural gift. His ear hears it, or maybe it's something he hears in his head. Okay, he just sits down and goes, "Okay, I hear this. What can I do with it?" And he applies what's going on. Some people have a natural talent and gift for that, and honey tap's one of those guys. He just has it. You know, that's you want subscribers that have that like-minded. That's why I subscribe to his channel, because I listen to his stuff and I'm like, how'd he do that? Or what's he doing right there? You know, it makes us question, or maybe I can learn what he's doing there. How can I apply what he just did to what I'm doing? And those are the subscribers you want. Can they contribute? Do they want to contribute to the channel? Do they like what you're doing? You know, someone can have 30,000 subscribers, but are they really subscribers that are watching your stuff, that are on the same level as you? Are they contributing? Does that kind of make sense, guys? This channel grows very slow. Every week, I probably lose 3 or 4 subscribers a week, sometimes 5 subscribers a week. But I gain 10 to 15 subscribers a week, if that makes any sense. So it's constantly. And the subscribers I lose, maybe I said something, or maybe it's just not them anymore. Maybe they found another channel that's more fitting for them. And that's fine. I get that. I still watch Philip McKnight. The Friday night show is at a certain time because of Phil McKnight's show. It's one, out of respect for Phil. He probably couldn't point me up out of an alignment because he's met me one time, you know, face to face, that we talked. And whether or not Phil would remember that conversation and go, hey, that's that dude I spoke to at Gear Fest, you know, in the food gallery. Maybe he would. It wouldn't surprise me. He's very intelligent, smart, funny guy. But what he would remember, you know, I don't know. You know, so our live stream, when I start here, is after his show. And if I was smart, I would try to hit my live stream right when his ends, because all those people are still on YouTube, and YouTube's going to push out, you know, another live stream to them, because that's what they were just doing. But I don't. I try not to ride the coattails of other shows. I try to do my own little thing and see who responds to it. But that's why the show is usually about 8:30 on Friday nights, just for that reason. Oh, you're welcome, Monty Tap. This is for you, man. And Mike, come back to the channel, I say. So I don't know how long we've been on, guys. My voice is kind of crackling. That's why I asked her to get me to drink.
Jupe said I have a very good memory, only it's short, LOL.
I have a good memory too. I remember that my memory is short. What did I say? I tell Linnell all the time, I've got a bad case of OLD.
Mike says, random note, for your information, looks like Firefly is putting out an Aldo Nova Les Paul as an Explorer style headstock.
Huh. Well, if the Explorer is more of the banana headstock, so that would be more of a Kramer ripoff than an Alva Nova, because Kramer is the one that has the Les Paul with the banana headstock.
Well, he said it. Oh, well, I don't know.
If I remember correctly.
Jerry Dover said, either they like you or they don't, Avery. You're one of a handful that I actually interact with. I learn a lot from you and easy to get along with.
Well, thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that. I think everyone here will say that I try to be as level as I can. I'm just like you guys. I get up and I go to work. I used to do a lot of AutoCAD and CNC programming. my job has kind of changed over the years. I'm more of a supervisor now than I am anything else. Um, but I try to take my experiences, and I applied my CNC work and my woodworking ability to my videos. And I think you guys can see that. Um, as far as my guitar playing, I didn't play for a very, very long time. And when I first started the YouTube channel, my playing was extremely rusty. I had really just started playing again, only been playing again for maybe 6 months or a year. And that doesn't mean that I completely just stopped playing. I would pick up the guitar 2 or 3 times a year. And that's about it. I had 2 guitars that hung on the wall here, and they were more wall art than anything else, sad to say. And finally, Linnell just told me, she goes, you just need to start playing. And started playing again, and I soon realized that it was something that I was missing. It was a side of me. Music cured that need. That maybe it's a disconnect from work. Maybe it's I went through a hard time with my mother and father passing away over the last 3 or 4 years. So I think music kind of cured a lot of that I had going on, and it still does. It's like therapy for us, and that's how I see it. As far as us getting together on Friday and Saturday night, like I said last night, all day Friday I was looking forward to coming in here and sitting down and chatting with you guys. It becomes like a little family,
Honeytop said I'm going to get you to be on a collab video, just a matter of time, my man. And then he said community is so healing, honestly.
Well, it's funny. Who just said the Alva Nova?
Mike?
Well, Mike just said Alva Nova. And Honeytop, now who did I say? I sent you an email, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to do this song? And it was a Alva Nova song. I can't remember which one it was now. It was, what was the name of that song? I thought it would be so cool to do a remake on that song. I don't remember now, but it's funny that Mike would bring that up, and then you were talking about redoing the collab, and it's the artist that I want. I said that would be cool to do a remake of that song. Yeah, music, Honeytap. It's a healing thing for me. Sometimes I get a stressful day at work, and you'll know if it's been a stressful day because I turn the gain up a little higher on the amplifier, and I just start. It becomes death metal day. So.
He said community is healing.
Yeah, Kurt Inscale's got it. Fantasy, that was the one. It's just a dun 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 dun. Of course, we couldn't do the little machine gun sound effects at the beginning when the laser beams are breaking into the barn. But we could work something out. Maybe we could be abducted by aliens or something and then go into the song. We'll bring it up to today's standards.
Gotta be drones.
Oh, yeah, that's... Linnell's got it. The drones need to attack and break into the warehouse to where the band is playing. So that would make it more relevant to today's standards. Jib said, I played guitar from teens on. Dropped it in the late 20s and then took up violin. Didn't stick with it and went back to guitar. You should have done, it's Mark, what's the artist guy's name? He only really had, I'll say, one successful album. He played the electric violin. It would have been like probably late 80s, early 90s. Mark something. He still makes custom violins, custom electric violins. And he has a cult following. I can't think of the gentleman's name if someone knows who I'm talking about. It was Mark Voodoo something. Phenomenal violin player. He just makes that thing holler and scream. That's what it reminded me of when you first brought that up. I can't think of I know it was Mark something. Played violin, electric violin. And then Honeycap, script writes itself. Yeah, that's it, man. The first song I played live back in 1984. Oh, was it Fantasy? Was that the one? I don't really know how that goes. I never learned it. I said something to, was it, I would have to figure that one out. Something like that. Yeah, you guys can tell me I'm down a whole half step, but my little squirrel ears are hearing something like that on that. That's without playing it or just pulling it out from not hearing the song in like 2 years.
That guy's name was Mark Wood.
Mark Wood. That's who come up with Mark Wood.
I did.
Oh, Linnell looked it up. Now see, guys, Linnell beat you all again. She looked it up. Mark Wood. If you guys don't know who Mark Wood is, do your little search. Look up Mark Wood. The dude is a stupid good violin player, but he plays rock violin. It's like imagine Yngwie Malmsteen playing violin. That's Mark Wood. Phenomenal violin player, and he owns his company how he makes a living. He makes electric violins. That's what he does. He owns a violin company, and they make violins. So, I didn't see anyone type in the comment what the green monster, purple monster was.
Jupe said the snow just started where he's at.
Jupe, you're not allowed to talk snow. That's a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
No snow.
Mary Dover said that's why she needs the latest and greatest appliance, Avery.
What was this? That's why yeah, exactly. Yeah, the freezer had to make these round balls of ice. If no one was doing that, I had to buy a special refrigerator that made the round balls of ice. And had to have the round balls.
Tell him I found the gas stove one.
Honeytap said snow. You guys in these 4-letter words, I'm telling you, I have to wash your all's mouth out with some lye soap. So if no one come up with the answer on the purple monster, the purple monster, that was the unit that really brought small bands up to what I call professional sound, like the Applied Research Technology did. The purple monster was the artist 2101 or the 2120. It was made by Digitech. They had a couple different versions. They had a 2012, a 2101, but the one you're looking for is the purple one. It had a twin tube 12EX7, and it actually went to 24-bit processing. It was a game changer. A lot of people left Applied Research Technology and went over to Digitech at the time. And Digitech kept the reign of smaller band rack mount equipment gear. I would say they kept the reins right up till line 6, or maybe the Avid rack mount unit that come out. If no one's familiar with the Avid unit, the gold-faced Avid unit, that one had a lot of stay power too. You know, they just stopped supporting the Avid unit, I think in 2022 was when Avid said, no more, we're not supporting that unit anymore. I think the unit still works as long as you have the coding to get into it. You might even be able to pick up a rack mount Avid unit now for $300 or $400. I couldn't imagine that it would be too much more than that since the company doesn't support the product. But the Digitech was the one that went up the next step. And I could be wrong. I think it was 2008 And someone correct me if I'm wrong. 2008 is when the Avid rack mount unit come out.
Curtain scale says Avid Rack 11. I still use it to this day.
Yeah, the Avid Rack 11. That's the one I'm talking about. Was that 2008 that unit come out? I think it was 2008. I would say that was the unit right around the same time as the Pod Go, or the not Go, but the Pod rack mount. Um, uh, I'm not too sure which one was which, but the Avid was a game changer. I will say that the gain stage in the Avid, it has the flaw like the ART delay had. You can get different distortion sounds out of the Applied Research Technology SGX 2000. You can get anything from bluesy to really high gain hair metal stuff. That wasn't the problem with the unit. The problem with the unit was the delay. No matter what you did with the delay, it sounded like an ART delay. The problem that I had with the Avid unit was no matter what you did to the Avid unit, the distortion circuit always had this, it was a sound quality that it had. It was almost, and I'm not saying it's bad, because I actually like the distortion tone. You know, the dual rectifier sounds like a dual rectifier. A Marshall sounds like a Marshall. The Avid distortion, I actually, that's what I call it, the Avid distortion. But it limited the unit because it had this sound. And no matter how you tweaked it, it always had this sound. I don't know if Kurt Inscale can touch base on that or not.
He said Pod X3, and I have that one too.
Yeah, the Pod X3, I had the very first rack mount pod. I don't remember which one it was. It had like a little round black thing in the center with some knobs. I didn't like it. I ended up selling it to the rhythm guitar player in the band, and I went back to my ART unit. But maybe Kurt can chime in on the delay section of the Avid. And if you guys don't mind, I've been drinking this, so I need to take that's the next thing. I want to get you remember when you went to the movies and the little popcorn guy would go, "It's time to go to the potty," or what it was, to get some refreshments. The little refreshments would dance. I need that video to play in the background while I go and hit the restroom real quick. So give me 1 second, you guys discuss in the chat.
Jupe's going to bed.
Jupe's going to bed?
Yep.
All right, Jupe, before I take my 2-minute break, thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate you coming in and joining the chat and hanging out with us. It's nice to see repeating faces each week. So thanks, man. Before you leave, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. It helps YouTube push the video out. Hope to see you next Friday or Saturday night, man. For everybody else, I'm going to go hit the restroom real quick, and then we'll come back to the live. Alright, guys, I apologize. So, what did I miss? Uh-oh. Linnell got into the topic conversations. Oh, she's talking about when she come out and she did a little jig dance in front of in front of the camera. That's what she's talking about. She was acting like a fool.
Yeah, well, see,
I actually thought that was pretty cool.
Honey Tap said, but Linnell, you're up. And I said, no.
she did her cameo last night. She come out and did the little jig dance. Yes, I did, Jerry.
Curtain Scale said, we can hear you, Avery. Don't forget to wash your hands.
Yeah. So I don't know if Kurt Inscale, did you notice that about the Avid unit, that the distortion, no matter what you do, it just has a certain tonal quality that it's hard to get that out of that unit. I think the delays and the reverbs and some of the stuff in there that the Avid is doing, it's great.
Jerry said she's still waiting on payment.
Yeah. What can I say? Yeah. Yeah, so as far as changing things up, I don't really know which direction I'm going. I can pretty much guarantee you that I will be getting a Katana 50. I did like that amp, and I thought the amp was light, and it was easy to transport on vacations. It was something real small I could take into the hotel room with my travel guitar, and it was also big and loud enough because when I went to the wedding up in Pennsylvania, I took that amplifier and I played my Epiphone Dot through it. And being outside on that little, because they got married by the river, and there was these little cabins with these porches on the cabins. They got married in front of the river. So sitting out on that porch with that amplifier, I had no problems with volume. I didn't turn it up, but that amplifier was quite capable at 50 watts for doing anything that I would need to do. And they've added and improved the Bluetooth functionality of the amp, so you no longer have to plug it into a computer. You can Bluetooth it to your phone and make the changes on the amp. One of the drawbacks of that amp is you don't have a knob for every control, especially on your effects. So now that it has Bluetooth, you can Bluetooth it to your phone when I'm on vacation, and it'd be easy to make delay changes and putter around with the amp. It's going to be an amp that I definitely pick up.
Curtain Scale said, I love the Avid. I can do any tone, distortion, and any effect. Super easy. The delays are a dream to work with and sound a lot like Digitech racks of the past.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of seeing too, Kurt. Linnell was reading your comment. I don't know if it would be good to pick up a used one of those and then tie it into the SYN2, or I think I have enough equipment here. What I'm probably going to end up doing first, I'm probably going to try one of my Digitech Studio 200s. I'm going to use one of those DSP units. And I also have an Alesis Mini Verb 4 or Micro Verb 4. So I have that unit as well. So I'm probably going to take the Synergy SYN2 and then use the Digitech Studio 200 and the Alesis Mini Verb, and then use the BBE and the AMR tube sweetener, and maybe go directly into the Butler like that. Now I am going to lose my stereo. Even though those rack DSP units are stereo, if I remember correctly, on the Synergy, it could be, maybe it's just the way I'm hooked up. I don't think it has a stereo out, even though it has stereo, even though it has effects loops. I don't think it's a stereo out preamplifier.
Curtis
Um,
said no, average rack to a 2 power amp is all you need.
yeah, I don't know. I'm going to try to make what I have work. I know I'm having issues with my ART SGX 2000. I'm pretty sure that's the unit that's starting to fail. I do have a backup unit. I just haven't transferred my programs over to my backup unit. I should probably do that and do a switch and see if that cures the problem. If the backup unit still has the issue, then I know it's a cabling problem or a jack problem or my power amp. It could very well be in my power amp as well. Um, that's why I was earlier we were talking to Jerry about a good technician, someone that could look over the things. But right now I don't know which piece is causing the problem. It's pretty complicated. So first I need to figure out where is the problem in the signal chain. You know, figure out what it is and then see if I can get the unit serviced. But that's probably what I'll end up doing. I have enough equipment. I could have 2 racks. I could keep the rack that I have up and running and just have an A/B switch on the Butler power amp. So I could pull the Synergy out and then build a rack unit for that and just A/B it to the Butler.
Honeytop said, have you ever used a looper? I bought one, a Ditto Plus, but it seems really challenging to learn how to use it.
I do have a looper. I have a D-Speed 2. And what I found, and I think everyone struggles at first with them, Honeytap, you have to loop. You're recording a loop signal. So as you're playing the guitar, you have to hit that button to start recording and then tap out at a certain time. Once you get the feel of the loop and the measure count, how many bars and measures you're going, I think it gets easier with time. I think that's probably what you're experiencing in the looper is your ability to punch in and out. That's the phrase I would use. You're trying to think of it as you're doing sound work in the studio and you're going to punch in and punch out to fix something. That's what your looper's doing. You've got to be able to punch in where you want the loop to start and then punch out exactly where your punch in is supposed to go, if that makes sense. That way it loops continuously without it sounding like a pause. It make it sound like you're continuously playing. That's what becomes the challenge. I think once you get that down, unless you bought a cheap one, you should be fine. Yeah, I think the Boss has one that everyone says is really good. The one I have, I bought because I was doing a series on Yo-Yo pedals, and I kind of got away from that series solely because my tube amplifier went out. And I know Jerry was paying attention to that series. He probably's like, well, whatever happened with it? Well, the amplifier that I was using in the series, running the pedals, trying to create a budget rack mount system with pedals, it died. So now I don't really have, I got the Egnator. I guess I could pick the pedal series back up and use the Egnator. But I was using my Blackstar for those reviews. So I think we still have a D-Speed 2, a Yo-Yo digital delay, Yo-Yo chorus, and I don't know what that other Yo-Yo pedal is up there. There's another one up there that still need to be reviewed. I just didn't get back to it because I lost the amplifier I was using on the reviews. Yeah, Honeytap, they're one of the Spark amps do have a looper. I've heard people talk about that. And then Jerry goes, should be the same as the 40 watt, I would think. But I would want to say that there's one in the mix. I haven't used the positive grid stuff since I got the GT1. Yeah, there's some. Nuvex makes some pretty nice little floor multi-effects processors too. It depends on the price point that you're wanting to spend. Um, you can start throwing darts too here. You look at some of these little floor multi-effects units and look at the price. It's kind of hard to beat. I know that Strymon makes this reverb floor pedal, and the reverb it's a reverb delay. They just sound so good, but it's $300 just for that one pedal. Um, I know guys that have $4,000 pedal boards. I'm not going to say that that's a bad thing. Um, I think that there are good pedals and there are great pedals, and there's some of them that just have the magic sauce. The programming, the chipset, whatever it may be, it just works, if that makes sense. And that's why I was saying my applied research technology, the chipset that they're using on the delay, it has an artifact, and it just has a funny sound to it. Um, some people would say, well, that's the art tone. That's true. But some of these pedals, like the Strymon pedal I'm talking about, they're so clean sounding. They're so warm sounding. I want to get one, okay? But then I think, well, I got my rack. So I always default back to my rack. And I could probably get that Strymon pedal, because it's reverb and delay, use that with the BBE and my Ignator, and that would be all I ever needed as far as like a little house combo amp. But there again, it falls back to if we're doing it at home for our gratification, or if we're going out to the bar and playing for money. There's a lot of things that I do here, guys, that I do for me, you know. Oh, I don't have my MPC on. Hold on. I thought the MPC was on. Do I do anything, anymore? I haven't worked with the M1 in years. I wanted to start doing some more piano type stuff, so I went out and bought a new piano. I bought the Akai MPC Key 61, and it's a great unit. But I have only scratched. When I say scratch, I've only scratched the surface of what it can do. It's a sequencer, it's a drum machine, it's a keyboard. It's everything all in one package. You can write on it. It's really next level writing. I can literally write out like tab, write down, and it'll set. You just write it. You don't necessarily have to play it. You write it like you would a piece of paper, and then the MPC will play it back to you. You can write the drums that way. You can write your bass lines that way. You can write the guitar that way, the piano parts that way, or you can write certain parts that way and then play live along to it on a different track and record it through the sequencer. So it's an amazing product. I would like to sit and write on this and then do more things like what HoneyTap does. My thing is just time. It comes down, I don't really have the time to sit down and do that kind of stuff. I wish I did. I wish I had time to sit down and really play this piano maybe an hour every night and still have time to play my guitar and do the YouTube stuff. It's just, I don't. But I like playing. I keep hitting the buttons thinking I'm over to the sounds, and I've yet to get to the sounds. Now, I had to load everything. I've got a separate hard drive in this thing. So let's go, let's see what else we got here. We've got Odyssey, Fabric. Let's go to Fabric. And for whatever reason, I'm not getting anything to the, I've got the channel down. Hold on, guys. I don't know if this will come through or not. don't think it's quite loud enough. Hold on. If you guys can hear that, tell me if you can hear it. Space Odyssey, yep, this is piano. Classical grand. So I like doing the stuff where it mixes like a standard piano and a key. Stone Age, let's see what that is. So that's got like an ambient piano. Takes it a second to load. No. There's a couple on here, guys, that it's just crazy good.
Honeytop said, will it do like a Harman organ?
Yeah, if the Akai software, you can actually use plugins, okay, that can go through the MIDI, and this thing, it is next level, Honeytop. This would probably be your well, that's what it is. It's a workstation. If you're looking for a workstation, I would look at the Akai MPC Key 61. It's going to be your drums, all your keys, all your sequencing, all your recording, everything right in this one platform. It is truly a phenomenal piece of recording gear. As far as the organs, let me go back to menu. Go to home. Menu. Sounds. Yeah, organs. Let me see, organ. Go to full. Slow full. Break comp. Full blues. So, I mean, that's just organ. I had to go back to let me go back to main. Menu, sounds, string sounds. There's so many things on here, guys. I can't even go over some of the stuff. I really need to. Let me change camera angles. Maybe the other camera will actually pick up the keyboard. So right here is the MPC. If you guys can see it right here. So if we go to fabric, it's amazing what the MPC can do. Now that's that camera there, and it is the wireless camera. So I'm gonna try something here, guys. I'm gonna try to pick that camera up, okay, and pray it'll go over here and you guys can kind of see the MPC here. So excuse the shakiness. And we're going to unplug it because it is plugged in right now. And basically that's just power. So there's the MPC Key 61. And then here's the rest of the setup.
Jerry said, nice shirt. Honeytap said that Shure mic boom is cool.
Yeah, the Shure mic boom is awesome. And then we leave from there. Of course, we got the guitars over there. And then we come over here, guys. It's cool to have a wireless cam. So here we have a rack mount spectrum analyzer, which auto corrects the room from when I was playing live. Two Digitech 200 Studios, a Mackie VLZ 16 Pro, and down here we have our other cabinet. This is pretty much power. This is my, basically it's a XLR pass-through. Two mic preamps, two DBX project units, another mic preamp, another DBX project unit. And this is my Mayato. So the Mayato, the only thing it's doing is MIDI digital sequencing. Then underneath all that we have my Tascam DA30. And then underneath that's the Crown power amplifier. Then over here we have a Sabian rack mount tuner, an Alesis Miniverb 4, the SGX 2000 Express first gen, a AMR PV tube sweetener, a Yamaha P5000, and then here's my guitar rig, guys. And then under the guitar rig, my bass rig. So that gives you a pretty good idea of what the room actually and how it's set up.
Honeytap said, what does the Tascam do?
What does the what do?
Tascam.
The DA30? The Tascam DA30. Let me switch camera angles here. Yeah. The Tascam DA30 is a digital mastering device. So what you would do when you wanted to go for your master, you would come out of your ADATs or your reel-to-reel, and you did your 2-track master to the DAT. And it's a digital audio tape, and it was your master. You could set codes for your tracking there. Then that would be sent off where you could print off either more DATs, you could print off DCCs, which I don't know if you are familiar with DCC or not. You could also go to disk, regular disk. DCC didn't really last too long. And then, of course, you had mini disc as well. So you could go mini disc, DCC, which was digital compact cassette, then DAT or disc, CD, I guess is what you would call it. But it was a mastering platform. And you could record at 44.1, 41, and 48. Most people recorded at 44.1 mastering. Now, the only piece that isn't out here is my Tascam DP32. It used to set over there, but I've been running out of room doing the live shows. So now the Yamaha AG08 and stuff like that's kind of taking up where the Tascam DP32 used to set. Yeah,
Jerry said nice bird.
nice.
Your helicopter, I think.
Oh yeah, that's a. You want to say music's an expensive hobby? That's my Agile 7.2. At one time, I did a lot of work for Agile, and I did some stuff for Galley. Did some design work as far as AutoCAD on the collective pitch rotors, and I flew at some of the air shows and stuff. And I was really into it, and I had a good friend that flew for Goblin Industries, and he was up in New York practicing for one of the big Healy shows, and the helicopter come back, and one of the rotor blades struck him in the head, and it killed him instantly. I flew for about another year after that, and I really haven't flown since then. It's a very expensive hobby. I still have, that's my 720 class. It swings 720 millimeter blades. It's got I think it's a 6 horsepower, runs on 14S polyam LiPo batteries. It's a beast. It probably has a top speed of about 160, something like that, miles an hour. It's pretty quick.
I don't know if you heard me earlier, but Jerry had said nice shirt.
Nice shirt? Oh, yeah. I got that. It's the music and gear. To my knowledge, if Bryce is still in the group, I know Bryce was here earlier. Bryce has one of these shirts, and it's DC, right?
I don't know if it was DC or
CG. It's either DC or CG that owned the Les Paul that was here. I sent a shirt to him in the box with the guitar. So to my knowledge, those are the only 2 shirts that are out with subscribers.
Funny Top said merch.
Yeah, it is merch. But the problem with this merch is, guys, I don't know if you've priced getting nice quality t-shirts done. I'm going to flip camera angles again. You all can see if you guys can see the back of that shirt. It's a sharp shirt. It really is. It's a sharp looking shirt. Linnell can tell you more because I know the order was close to $600 for these shirts. And we didn't get that many of them. It was like $25 a shirt.
Yep.
Our cost. But the quality of the print and stuff and the durability, we've been Warshak because I've been wearing them. I will say the durability, the stitching, the color, they are good shirts. But at $25, that's to my house. Then I have to pay to ship it to somebody. I don't think that you guys would be overly interested in paying, 25. I don't know what it would cost to send a shirt. Let's say if I had to send it to California, it would at least cost $5 or $6. So at $30 a shirt, I would break even. So I never put anything up as far as listing the shirts for sale for that reason. I figured people would go, oh my God, this guy's making a kill. He wants how much for a freaking t-shirt? So I just didn't do it for that reason. So what I've been doing it is if someone sends me a guitar for review, I think I have one more extra large left, and I think I have 3 or 4 large left, and the rest are medium and small. So if someone sent me something, I would put a shirt in the box, and I would send the product back with the shirt in the box for them, just for a thanks. Hey, thanks. here's some merch for the channel. No one else gets it. Thanks for participating. I just didn't think anyone would be interested in paying. I would have to make $5 a shirt, and that's not even making any money. That wouldn't even pay for the gas and the amount of time, and you got to buy the box to send it in, because it comes in a big, huge box. It just wouldn't be there for you guys, if that makes sense. Maybe if I can find a different screen printer that wouldn't be as expensive as these were, or maybe just do the front logo and not the real. The back is what cost the money, guys. When I did this back, because there's 3 colors, and you see the guitars go over the end, and the music and gear goes over the music swirl, the little swirl of the music. So that added cost, but I didn't want to. I wanted something that was nice. I could probably just do a shirt just with this logo here, and it would probably be far cheaper. The back screen print is what made the cost go through the roof. If you guys are interested in it, just a shirt with maybe just this embroidered part in gray, I can look up what they would cost. The problem is you got to order. I think it's like 10 of each is bare minimum order. And then if you don't order at least 30, the quantity count kills you. They charge you so much. Of course, the more quantity you order, the cheaper per unit it goes down. That's how they get you. So if I didn't order at least 30 or 40 shirts, it wouldn't be worth it. The price point wouldn't be worth it on the shirts. Alright guys, I think we're going to call it a night on the live stream. I never got an actual count on how many people were in here, but I want to thank everyone that came and hung out with us tonight, and whoever's still here. If you made it this long in the video, thank you so much for hanging out. We do this every Saturday night. Tonight seemed to be rack mount effects and stuff like that. Last weekend, I think it was more guitar oriented. We didn't really play too much guitar tonight, and that's fine. Everyone was kind of chatting and having a good time. So, again, I want to thank everybody for, coming and stopping in. And before we end the stream, I just ask everyone to go down and hit the like button for me. And, again, we're going to do it again next Friday night. And I am working on a review for this guitar. Hopefully I can get it out next week. If not, Friday night may be a video premiere on this instrument right here. So hopefully we can make all that happen. I think I put everyone to sleep because the chat just all of a sudden stopped. So I finally figured out what I should do. YouTube's got the sleep videos where it's just rain. Well, that's what my videos do. They put my video on, you instantly go to sleep. But again, guys, thanks for coming and chilling out with us. And without you guys, this stream would be nothing. Trust me, it would be nothing. Because tonight was the first night, it took about 2.5 minutes for someone to join the stream. And I was playing the guitar and I'm looking at the screen and I'm like, nobody's joining. Nobody's joining. And I'm sitting there going, uh-oh. It hit a minute and 30 seconds. I'm like, nobody has joined yet. And I'm like, tonight's going to be a bust. But in reality, tonight was a great show, guys. Everyone contributed, and YouTube sees that because I go back and look. Every time you all type a message, YouTube counts it. And YouTube knows what you're talking about because your AdSense, when it plays, if someone brought up a topic, watch AdSense. Those ads will be related on what you all typed in. It's not just what I'm talking about. I've noticed that these live stream commercials, when I go back and look, it's like, well, Jerry just brought this up, and it's funny now that there's a commercial talking about just that product. So YouTube sees that. So when you all bring up stuff, and every time you make a comment, it's hearing you. It really does. Oh, Daniel's here. Oh my gosh. And if you've commented before, Daniel, I'm sorry. It's the first time I saw your comment. Daniel said maybe have a start timer. I've seen other live streams that have a count timer until the start. And, I really want to do that, Daniel, but this is the problem. I've tried to do that twice. Pre-schedule the live stream. I can't get OBS to start on the predetermined time because you set that time up in YouTube, okay? And I don't know how to make OBS interlock to YouTube. And again, I'll put it out there. I want the channel to grow. It's our channel. It's about us, If any of you want to help out, and if you know how to make that work and you understand YouTube better and OBS, we get together on Skype, like Mike and I get together on Skype. Daniel, I can't remember the guy's name. We get together on Skype too. I can't think of the fellow's name. Yeah, who is it? Devastator gets on a lot with me and helps me work out the bugs on some of this stuff. So if anyone's interested in that, just shoot me an email or something. My email's on the main page, and we can try to work out some of the bugs and try to get some of that stuff to work. Being able to set the live stream up to where it's sending out notifications and it's going to start at 7 and you can sit and wait, that would definitely be something I want to do. I just can't get it to work yet.
Jerry said I heard you talking about picking on the PV guy. I was trying to get the phone connected to TV.
Yeah, I told everyone to pick on the ex-PV employee that built cabinets. I don't know if anyone kind of got on you tonight or not, Jerry, but that means your family. That's what that means, man. But again, guys, if anyone wants to help out, whether it's just working out bugs in the system or you want to participate, reviewing videos and stuff like that, the channel's growing. And tonight was the first live stream that we actually had 2 wrenches going at the same time. Mike was able to show up tonight. And if Mike's still here, I appreciate everything Mike's done for the channel. He's done a lot for the channel. He's a great resource for amp modification and tubes. So reach out to Mike if you guys have any questions on Mike. But again, thanks, guys. I need to get off here. My throat's killing me. But reach out to me. Email if anyone's interested in helping out. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you soon, probably next Friday night.